Hi, Gary Stearman. Time for another update from Prophecy Watchers, and with me once again, Avi Lipkin, direct from Israel. Of course, he spends a lot of his time right here in the United States. You drive in the United States probably more than most Americans, Avi, I would say.
Well, it's about 30,000 miles a year. When I say to Israelis 50,000 kilometers, you cannot drive 50,000 kilometers in Israel. I mean, it's too small.
Yeah, it is.
But the United States is terrifically great and blessed. I love the United States. I was born and raised here. I always come back wondering how great this country is and how God has blessed this country because it believed in God.
Put that in the past tense.
Well, it did, and I think, the official statistics that I've seen over and over again are that 70% of America's population considers itself Christian. In other words, 70% says it goes to church every Sunday. So it is still, I would call, a Christian country. However, there's a very small, very vocal minority which is pulling in the opposite direction, pulling away from God, and I think leading America down a very slippery slope to its destruction. And so, as a Jew, not a Christian, but as a Jew, I tell Christians what you guys need is a Christian revival for Israel's survival.
Amen. Now, today, I want to talk with Avi about the subject matter of this book. Avi's written 7 books. We have all 7 of them right here at Prophecy Watchers, and you can scroll down to the online bookstore and view them all, and I wish you would. But this one, Islamic Rivalry, ISIS and Iran are fighting for the heart of Islamic identity, I think is very, very newsworthy at the moment. Number one, as we make this, Vladimir Putin seems to be pulling his forces out of the Middle East. What's going on there? Number two, we have this unpronounceable Prime Minister of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Right.
And that's hard for the American mouth, let me tell you.
Well, actually, in Arabic, it makes a little more sense. Recep is Rajib. Right. Rajib is a very common name in Arabic. Okay. Tayyip is Tayyip, which means good. And Erdogan, I think, is just simply a Turkish name, though it could be, in Arabic, Ard is land. So Erdogan could mean of the land or something like this.
But he's making a lot of noise these days.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, firstly, I don't know if you know this or not, but Erdogan is God. In Turkey, they're painting him to be like God. They're really turning him into a cult of worship. Erdogan has the megalomaniac dreams of restoring the Turkish caliphate, which was in place for 1,000 years. Erdogan wants to make Turkey rule, listen carefully, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, meaning from Morocco, North Africa, Arabia, Middle East, into the southern areas of what used to be Soviet Union, Xinjiang province in China. And you have 70 million Uyghurs in China, and they're scattered all over China. And I was just invited to speak in China because they want me to come and warn the Chinese people of the Islamic threat to the People's Republic of China.
Wow.
And of course, you have a very strong Islamic power in Indonesia. So it means basically you have reached the Pacific Ocean from Atlantic to Pacific. Indonesia is the most populous Sunni Muslim country. There are 200 million. You have 120 million in India. You have Muslims in Malaysia. The whole area, Pakistan, as you move east, move west, you reach Turkey, you reach North Africa. The Turks in their public schools show all the countries in red, which were once Turkish. And so the whole map of the world is red. They go all the way to Vienna. They cover Spain, Portugal, and France, South Italy.
They haven't forgotten.
They haven't forgotten, and they are fantasizing, dreaming psychotically about returning to conquer all these areas, just like ISIS is doing.
You used the word psychotically, and let's talk about Erdogan as a person. He's kind of a zealot. Tell us about him, and what are his goals right now?
Well, firstly, he is the Turkish equivalent of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Okay.
Which President Obama so much supports. He does. If you remember what happened in Egypt, you had the Morsi victory in the elections,
matter
and then
of record.
The overthrow of Morsi by the army, Morsi was Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes.
And the Muslim Brotherhood basically can be made synonymous with ISIS, with Al-Qaeda, with Jabhat al-Nusra, and with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where people's heads are chopped off all the time. Arms and legs are chopped off. The horrible things that ISIS does are the same things we see happening every day in Saudi Arabia, even in Iran. Iran does the same beheadings and how they throw homosexuals off the roofs of buildings and do terrible things to all kinds of people. Even Muslims, for example, ISIS, if you are a soldier in the army of ISIS, you said, you know what, I've had enough, I want to go home. They catch you, they behead you. So deserters get beheaded. This is no different than what we see in Saudi Arabia.
Very, very vicious, medieval in their morality.
Barbaric.
Barbarically medieval. When you think of Genghis Khan, for example, and the things that he used to do to people, that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Right. And by the way, Genghis Khan and his followers converted to Islam later on, and they brought a lot of these Muslim people from the Middle East to rule over China until there was a Confucianist rebellion. And then the Yuis became the Uyghurs in Western China, and a lot of them went to Japan. I mean, when you see a Japanese person with the name Yui in the middle, it's Muslim. I don't know if you remember in Virginia Tech, the killing of 23 people. The media never spoke about it, but this was a Korean of Yui extraction, Muslim extraction, lived in Saudi Arabia with his father, and then came to the United States, studied at Virginia Tech, and killed 23 people. And he had a tattoo on his arm, Ishmael Axe.
So there is infiltration everywhere.
Yeah,
Now,
and the media doesn't cover it.
back to the Middle East. Erdogan is making proclamations about the expansion of what could be a caliphate. He wants to reestablish the old Ottoman Empire. Vladimir Putin has judiciously pulled back to the north again. Now, what about the Saudis? Now, the Saudis do not like the Turks. There's an ancient separation there. Tell us about that.
Well, I would recommend to all your viewers to watch the famous Hollywood movie Lawrence of Arabia. It shows very clearly the Arabs of the desert of Saudi Arabia fighting against the Turks. And the British were very skillful with Lawrence of Arabia in mobilizing these Saudis to fight the Turks. And then, of course, out of this came the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, the Hashemite kingdom of Syria, the Hashemite kingdom of Iraq, three brothers. And then, of course, the House of Saud got Saudi Arabia.
So why did Vladimir Putin pull out? A lot of people are saying, and you read the papers, it says that he's going back to Russia, no more interest in the Middle East. You don't believe that, I guess.
Firstly, it's very important for all the viewers of this show or this update that we're doing now to understand that Russia has been at war with Turkish tribes for 1,000 years. A little more than America has been around.
Okay.
There is a very, very strong tradition of warfare between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Sunni Muslims. Now, because the Sunni Muslims hate the Iranian Shiites, so the enemy of my enemy is my ally. So Russia backs Iran because they're Shiites. America and the West back ISIS and Saudi Arabia and the Sunnis and the Turks against the Russians because of the Cold War. In my personal opinion, I think that all Christian nations, including Russia, should band together with Israel also to defeat Islam. But it seems like that there are interests and financial interests and directives, so basically it's America and the Sunnis against the Russians and the Shiites, and I cover this exactly in my 7th book, Islamic Rivalry, the history of Russia versus the Turks and different Turkish tribes.
It's a very, very complex picture there, and you may have heard Avi refer to Russia as a Christian nation. Now, in America, we don't think that way. We think of them as being rabidly atheist, communist, Leninist, whatever. But you look at them now as a Christian nation.
Yes. What has happened, I think, is a reversal of role models here. America, which used to be Christian, now Homeland Security says in their manual, if you're a Christian, you're a terrorist. And if you believe in the Bible, you're mentally unstable. In Russia, what has happened is, after the fall of communism, you have a leader today called Vladimir Putin, who, it's true, his father was a communist. His mom was a born-again Russian Orthodox Christian. And so Putin is a faithful follower of the Russian Orthodox Church. The Russian Orthodox Church has made an incredible revival. So Russia has become a Christian country. In addition, you have to remember that the Soviet Union had a population of 350 million people. 200 million were Muslims. Today, Russia is only 150 million people. It's true, a third are Muslims, but the majority population is Russian Orthodox. And so today, Russia is a fervently Christian country, and America has become a fervently atheist country.
Wow. Now, if you're not thoroughly confused at this point, like me, you should be, because it's a complex story, and you can read all about it here in Islamic Rivalry. Avi is a history buff, to say the very least. He goes back into the medieval era and before that with great facility and great ease, and he clarifies what are very complex questions. Again, for people who may be reading the newspaper and wondering why is Vladimir Putin is pulling north, and wonder what the Saudis are doing, and wonder what Erdogan is doing in Turkey. Just give us a brief recap.
Well, as you know, the opposition forces, not including ISIS, of course, or Al-Qaeda, there is a group of Islamist groups, but they're not considered the fanatic. They all are fanatic, in my opinion. But there are now negotiations taking place between the government of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, and the anti-government Sunni forces, hopefully with some kind of end to the Syrian civil war. And so I think that Russia is feigning withdrawal in order to assist the negotiations between the two sides to come to some kind of a peace accord. You have to remember 10 million people of Syria out of 20 million have fled the country. And so the country today is decimated, desolate, and they're all going to Europe and America. So the Europeans, the Americans, the Russians, actually everyone's kind of interested in putting an end to the civil war. So Russia is trying to show that it is cooperating by pulling its troops out. But don't forget, the Russian bases in Tartus and Latakia are still there, and in 24 hours, the whole Russian army could be in Syria if needed.
If needed. So it's on hold, I suppose, and meanwhile, off to the east, there are the Iranians up to their usual stunts, and we haven't even talked about that. But we're out of time, and all I can say is read the book. Islamic Rivalry. ISIS and Iran are fighting for the heart of Islamic identity. And they are. The battle goes on. It's always a pleasure to have Avi with us. Come again soon, and we'll be doing a lot more with you while you're here.
Amen.
And by the way, you keep watching. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.